Listen to the DJ. Hear what he has to say.
And then after that party, we sort of disbanded. Now my sister, at the time, were dating these famous promoters in New York City at the time. I mean, not all of them, just one guy. So she told this guy, Lindsay Harris, that, yeah, I got a brother, he's a DJ, blah, 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 blah. So he called, I was talking to him on the phone. He says, yeah, I heard you're a DJ. I said, yeah, that's right, man. Blah, blah. He said, what's the name of your group? And I was like, shit, can't say Grandmasters. So there was a shoebox that I had in my room, and it said Fantasia on it. So I go, yeah, we call ourselves Fantasia. That's right. He said Fantasia. He started laughing. So he said, okay, we're gonna give you guys a shot. This famous jazz club in New York City in the 1940s and 50s called Jimmy's. So we were hired to come there. Now at that time, the major players, DJ-wise, and Brooklyn had more DJs per capita than the Bronx. You don't believe me? My man Cool D, who started out with us, he said so in his interview on YouTube. He even said that Brooklyn was way ahead of the Bronx. So anyway, the main players were Flowers, this guy named Ras Maboya, Plummer, QJ System. These are the guys who had monster systems. So anyway, I told my boys, Larry B and Rap, oh, we got this gig. So we scrambled, to get the equipment together. I had a girlfriend and I need some speakers. So she took me to the department store. We bought some house speakers. One had a 15-inch woofer in it. One had a 12-inch woofer. So we tried it out at the house and it sounded great, right? Like, yeah, we're gonna fucking kick ass, right? And we get there and this guy Larry D, he was on the stage. And his system was booming, and we got there and we got nervous. And we tried to set up everything, and we had like Snap, Crackle, Pop, Rice Krispies was coming out of the speakers, and the guy said, Fantasia's trying to get together, and it didn't happen. So after the third try, we got it together. We rocked the crowd, but we knew that then and there that our sound system was weak. It was very weak. So it was very important back then that you had a good sound system to play your records over. I don't care if you mixing and doing all kind of tricks. If your sound system sucked, the crowd would let you know that your sound system sucked. So we learned from that. So what happened all that, a little trial and error, we did what we call the Chitlin circuit, where you play at these little clubs and everything to build up money to get equipment. Now, in the beginning, we were not very knowledgeable about what we needed, to have a nice sound system that had some clarity to it, that whatever records that we played that the crowd would like and get into. So, talking to some guys, renting some equipment for some people who were knowledgeable, we sort of like established ourselves a little bit. And I remember one time, when the equipment was pretty decent, we was up in the Bronx. And it was a block party with Cool D. Cool D, he was like embarrassed that first set that we didn't sound very well. So he went off on his own, which is cool. So he invited us to his block party in the Bronx, and we was killing it. And then as the night began to get darker, started to play again, and somebody behind me kept pulling out the electric plug on us. And I would turn around and take a look, and somebody would get that shit-looking grin, and they plug it back in, and then we play again, they pull it out again. So I told my boy Larry B, I said, look, let's pack up and get out of here because it's gonna get ugly, so let's just go, let your cousin play the rest of the set. So off we went. So later on, you'll see a nice flyer, 15 DJs set at this place called Manhattan Center in Manhattan. This is where we met our engineer who took our sound system to another level, really to another level. So we met with him, and he built some bass cabinets for us, but he had something unique that no other DJ during that era had, and we had these plexiglass mid-range speakers. They were a piece of, oh my God, the clarity and the sound that came out of those things was so clear, so resilient. So we were the only ones at that time that had that. So we met with him, and you'll see the rest of the equipment. Now, back then, during that time, the main DJ that came out of the Bronx, that put Bronx on the map, was a guy named Pete DJ Jones. A lot of guys that came after him, like Starsky and Hollywood and Bambaataa, all of them heard him. But since we had this bad reputation of the disco era, you guys are part of the disco era, man. You're not hip hop. Now, disco era for us, especially the African American community, wasn't that. You get jacked up, you come into some club, doing some Hollywood stuff like that. That was all Hollywood. That whole image was all Hollywood. And what the record companies did during that time, they started watering down the music. So you start getting these records that go do, 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 and they add a little beat to it. It's, oh yeah, that's disco, man. Meanwhile, in our community, it was funk, R&B, a little jazz, even some rock tunes, reggae. That was the foundation of a lot of music. Especially the funk part. They add a little funk element to the music, so basically that was that. So that was that argument. Now, Flowers and other DJs, they were cutting up records before the 12-inch record came along. So you had 245s. You had a part 1 on one side and a part B on part 2 on the other side. So in order to mix those two records effectively, you had to be a good mixologist, so it all sounds like one record. Now, a lot of those short little 45s had break beats in them. So you had to know where to put the needle in and break those records up. And since they were very fine little 45s, it's very hard for you to, go back and forth, the little thing about the needle sliding off somewhere and you being embarrassed. So a lot of break beats comes from those records and off of albums. So you didn't really have to be a rocket scientist to figure it out. If you had a record that had a nice little break beat in it, that was really cool, that the crowd would always wait for that part of the record to come up and bust a move when that part of the record kicked in. So if you wanted to keep that beat going, you needed 2 of them. So it made common sense to get another copy and just keep looping that over and over and over again. So that's where that began. So, like I said, so we got all of that going, and we had the equipment. And then, we really skyrocketed. We were playing all over the place. We came back to the Bronx again, like one at a time. It was a little bit more hospitable, I would say. And Kool D was on the 2nd floor, and I was on the top floor of this place called the Savoy Manor. And we rocked the crowd, and that was good. Now, as far as rapping is concerned, we had an MC whose name was Larry B. Larry B was very articulate with his enunciation of his short little raps. You can see later on, we got the DJ, the rapper, talks a little bit more. Back then, Larry B knew exactly when to come on the record and do his rapping, and he knew when to leave. He knew we had a good timing together. So that's where all that comes from. And before him, there was another MC, Setney B, KC, the Prince of Soul. All these guys were rapping on the microphone. Like I said, all it is now it's an extension of those raps. Instead of having a space in between, they just keep going and going and going and going and going and going. So that happened. So what happened was, I have a recording of my boy Larry B, and you'll hear him. It's from 1978. It's on my website, and you'll hear him go hip hop. You don't stop, And so, oh shoot, I have a friend. There's a rap group called Third Base. Anybody familiar with Third Base?
What up?
All right. So Prime Minister Pete Nice, he found me also on the website, and he came and interviewed me. He said, man, you guys were saying hip hop, back then, hello, anyway. So it's really hard to even say who started saying hip hop. I mean, exactly, how do you verify that? Did you say hip hop first? Yes, I did. I said it one day. I came out after doing laundry. I said, let me hip hop on my way back to home. So that's how these things start. But I told Pete Nice, there's a record from 1960 from this group called the Dovels, and it's called You Can't Sit Down. And the lead singer goes, you gotta hip hop, flip flop, shake it all around. And that's from 1960. So Does that terminology come from off that record, or does it come from the 80s when, you know, somebody took it and ran with it? So anyway, that came along. Disco was dying out, and you know the hip hop movement was coming in, and then around the 80s was the last time of Fantasia's big rise. But the thing that I noticed about the beginning of the hip hop guys and the rappers, they were taking all the music that I used to play, cutting it up, and rapping over it. Yeah, that's what they were doing. They said, oh man, you guys are playing disco. Well, that's true. Why are you using those records if they're disco? That's where those beats come from. They come from that era of the 70s. You know, all those chopping up of the records that you might hear. Oh, that song is new, man. Yeah, no, it's not. You know, here's the group, and this is where you get the sample from. So, you know, we always say that hip hop is the bastard child of disco. You know, because it begat hip hop. The guys that came through that era, the DJs, because up in the Bronx, up until '78 was like when they really started to get on the DJ scene. Because like I said, at that time, Pete DJ Jones, Cool D were the premier guys from the Bronx. And it's really kind of sad because African Bambaataa used to follow Cool D around when he used to play in the Bronx. And so when Africa Bambaataa got famous and all these other guys in the Bronx got famous, he got shoved to the side. You know, he got shoved to the side just like here in Perth. You know, the guy started here in the 80s. Somebody else comes along, and that part of history it gets shoved aside. You know, so I'm here to give you the link, and Brooklyn is the link. You got Brooklyn, you had the Bronx on top, you had Queens. Now Queens is like an extension of Brooklyn. We call it back then, it was like the farm country because it was hard to get to by train, by bus. There was too much traveling to go out there and party. But Brooklyn, which was closer to Manhattan, were the major party scenes. You know, major clubs. As a matter of fact, you wanted to play in Manhattan because that's where all the happening spots were. Luckily for me, I have a recording of a radio announcement with Fantasia, DJ Hollywood, Love Buzz, Starsky, and Cool D. And I can remember that the first time I came home, and I was playing on this radio station, WBLS, and you know, listening to music, and then the commercial came on, and I heard the word Fantasia, you know, come through the radio, and I nearly lost my mind. Because we're talking before internet and everything, so the radio was still a big form of getting information of where the happening set was. I nearly flipped. And luckily for me also, I took a cassette tape, put it in, and I waited. Waited for a few hours for them to rep the music and waited for that commercial to come on, and I caught it at the right time, and I have it till this day. Because I remember in 1975, see, you have to remember, the DJ was the person you went to see. Depending on what you like that DJ when he was spinning records, that's who you went to see. You went to see Flowers, Plummer, QJ, Maboya, but their style of music. You know, DJ was the key. Rapper was secondary. Later on, DJ, secondary, rapper, out in front now.
Yeah.
So that's how it went. So that's what you wanted to do. You wanted to go hear that DJ that did that music. So what I want to do now is go to the slideshow and give you a little explanation of what we had and what it was. So, Rosie? All right. Now this is Action Jackson. He's our engineer. Action Jackson designed all the speakers that you're going to see. He designed them himself. He built some of them, but he would give the design to the carpenter or the company he went to that did the woodwork, and they would build the design. But a lot of this stuff he built by himself. Now, this is a flyer that I sold for, I think this one I sold for $1,000. This guy, he wanted this flyer really badly. We have these guys back in the States that they're collecting all these flyers. They say, oh, I'm putting a book together. You know, will you sell me that flyer? Now, this is our second attempt at the Grandmasters of trying to give a house party. I did all the artwork, and once I sold it to him, you know, he had that. I should have kept that, you know, but I didn't. So now he has it, you know. And hopefully it'll show up in the book